Indeed, an amazing talk and amazing mission for each one. We believe that diversity and inclusion is important to understand the real needs of the seafarers today. And prior moving to the next speaker, I would like to add that this has to go jointly with the psychometrics and also with debriefing reports, so the ship managers and ship owners will understand better the needs and hierarchy of needs of the seafarers. And more visits, because due to technology now, there are not that much visits. Generally, I read a report a few days ago that there is about 10% of visits on board ships compared to a decade in the past. Because due to technology and due to Zoom conferences, etc., they do also with the onboard crew, and many do not send people on board. And it's believed that human interaction, apart from technology, which is what drives the future, is very important. And here comes the transmission of Generation Z to Generation A, as mentioned, and this is very important for all of us. Is a changing of mindset due to technology, social media, etc. And it follows a very nice, personally, I believe, which has to be a sustainability strategy for every ship manager, maintaining a resilient crew pool in changing times, which Mr. Bradshaw, Director of FML Ship Management, is going to present. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Adonis, for inviting me to speak at your conference. Thank you. I want to say a very special thank you to the great work that ISWAN do. I want to thank Simon particularly because he's covered many of the points I'm going to be speaking about. So hopefully I won't hear that really loud klaxon in a few moments' time. Mr. Hamunis, in his introduction, covered some fantastic points about the challenging world the modern seafarer is heading into. I'm centering my presentation today around the seafarer. And over coffee, I probably summed up my presentation in a few key statements. Our seafarers today want to be respected. They want to be trusted. They want to have fulfilling work. They want to be paid on time. They want to be relieved on time. And they want to go home in the same healthy, safe condition that they joined the vessel. And that won't change. Shipping has always been and will always be a people business. At FML, we have 650 vessels with a crew pool of 27,000 seafarers. As we're sitting here talking about them this morning, we've got 16,000 seafarers on board right now. So this is why this topic is so important to ship managers, because the people are the business. So similar to what Adonis said, I'm going to put some statistics on the slide, on the screen, and if anybody takes any photos of them, they will also make a €50 donation into the charity box afterwards. So as we heard from Simon, the demographic for the modern seafarer is changing. Age and sailing tenure is changing significantly. Gender is changing too slowly. And there's a greater number of seafarers coming from more rural areas. Simon covered many of those pull factors in his presentation as to why people from these outlying rural areas would want to still go to sea today. At FML, 65 to 70% of our workforce comes from India. The balance comes from the Philippines and from China. We have very few seafarers from west of Suez countries. So we're not as exposed today with the geopolitical threats to our crew pool. I also want to thank Mr. Jimones for mentioning AI a lot, because when you enter seafarers into artificial intelligence for photographs, as you can see, AI thinks the modern seafarer has some fantastic hair. Again, Simon covered some of this. When I answer the question, is culture the biggest problem for the crew, having spent 23 years in health and safety, I didn't want to talk about safety culture. I wanted to talk about the culture of the seafarer. The modern seafarer wants immediate gratification, constant communication, and all these other great points you see on the screen. And I reflected on it this morning, and apart from the last one about being healthy and eating well, those points could probably cover any one of our children today. It's generational needs. So we're at an interesting juncture. There's an incredible dependency on technology. They always want to have connectivity, no matter what part of the world they are in. Digital silence is a sin to the modern seafarer. The modern seafarer is looking for reduced hardships. Like I said, relieved on time, no delays. They have greater expectations on catering on board. They want to eat well, exercise well. And they want to have good entertainment systems on board to de-stress after their shifts. There's also a very high priority on safety within the modern seafarer. Industry initiatives such as the Partners in Maritime Safety, Together in Safety, and all these other great initiatives that we see in industry today are lifting the bar on the seafarers' expectations of safety and their expectations of their leaders towards their safety. Simon mentioned about seafarers getting on board the ships more, managers getting on board the ships more. I was on one of our Capesizes doing a senior leader visit in Singapore in February, and I spoke to all the crew on board, and these are the points that I saw with my own eyes. As I said, I've been in health and safety for 20 plus years and been supporting a lot of projects such as Social Interaction Matters. And Fleet shares the same passions as I do. And we're investing heavily in welfare and entertainment systems on board the ship to bring the crew back together. Internet access is both a blessing and a curse. Social connections on board are challenged. And it's well established that seafarers who enjoy good social bonds on board their ship are more likely to intervene on unsafe acts that they see with their peers on board. So social bonds between colleagues drives improvements in safety. So to bring people back together, we're also introducing the opposite of connectivity. We have digital detox days to make sure that the seafarers are not squirreled away in their cabins on, I don't even know what platforms they use now, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, give it a name, they're on it, and they're not speaking to their peers on board the ship. So digital detox days is one way to bring people together. We also have invested heavily in our own internal service called Fleet Care, something that we're extremely proud of. We have a dedicated team providing 24/7 crisis response to welfare and mental well-being challenges, both for the seafarer on board the ship and for family challenges back home. Because we know that when challenges back home present themselves, stress levels rise on board the ship. So we have this fantastic team, as I said, in India, and we have 2 permanent, fully qualified psychologists on our team. We have a supporting team of people from various industries, from seafaring, from customer service, from the airline industries, all with a focus on providing support to the modern seafarer at FML. For this, moving on to training, we are seeing significant advances in training techniques, and the toolbox for delivering training to our seafarers today is expanding. At Fleet, we're using gamification, we're using tablet-based applications to support our training, as well as our simulator and classroom-led training events. We've developed a VR lab, and that's based in Mumbai. And we're training people and assessing people on practical skills such as welding. Now, when I was in India last month, I had a go at this VR welding lab. And I can say 100% I'm still as rubbish at welding as I was when I was an engineering cadet 30 years ago. The seafarer of the future, however, will need to have all of the traditional skills that we're delivering today. But they'll need to have added skills into their arsenal. IT, automation, electronics, machine learning, and AI will no longer be an added advantage, but an essential skill that they need to develop. National authorities, flag states, they need to develop too, to recognize these new training techniques and technologies. What will be required in the future is the human-machine interfacing and management, which require a lot of investment into seafarers. The challenge will be the transition where the current seafarers will need to be reskilled on these issues, while the newer generation will adapt to the digital demands and will have been trained on vessels which will already be then sparsely manned. In a coincidence of timing of this event, and maybe Adonis, it was a deliberate move, but of course 4 days ago we had the International Day for Women in Maritime, with this year's theme, Safe Horizons, Women Shaping the Future of Maritime Safety. And Safe Horizons underscores the vital role that women play in enhancing maritime safety, whether as seafarers, professionals, or leaders. Their impact extends across our operational protocols and safety standards. And at Fleet, we are proud of our progress towards a more inclusive workplace. Notably, in 2023, we grew our female seafarer pool by 33%. But that's still not enough. Simon Grange highlighted some of the advantages of the diverse workforce. And we are finding that the presence of female officers is fostering a more positive, more respectful workplace. It's promoting better communication, better teamwork, and collaboration amongst the crew members on board, which in turn is resulting in higher job satisfaction and reduced conflicts on board the vessel. But as Mr. Harmonis mentioned, the percentage of female seafarers in our industry is low. Mr. Harmonis said 2% from the ITF data. If you look at the BIMCO workforce data, it says 1.2%. So if we take the worst case scenario, there's so much more that we need to do in this room and beyond. As third-party managers, we often lament about the shortage of qualified, trained, experienced seafarers. We cannot complain when 50% of the world's population is not being included. So I return to the title of this presentation and call for action, that we must diversify to maintain a resilient crew pool in these changing times. But kind words, social media posts, and photographs on the internet only go so far. We need actions. We need tangible actions to drive this forward from 1.2%. So at Fleet, we have dedicated shore support for all of our female seafarers, officers and cadets. We have dedicated Fleet Care liaison managers that interact with our female colleagues on a monthly basis. Ahead of any statutory requirement, we already offer all the PPE that would be required, adapted to the female demographics. But we've created a peer group. So all of our female seafarers are invited to join, they don't have to join, a peer group on WhatsApp. And they all support each other. And our dedicated Fleet Care team, who I introduced earlier, are on that peer group chat as well. And so there's continuous peer-to-peer support, company-to-peer support, to make sure that we develop a healthy, strong, diverse place for people to work. For our cadets, we too have a mentorship program in place. This is extremely important for this growth beyond 1.2%, so I've mentioned a moment ago. Investing in training and development for female cadets is a long-term strategy of fleet management, and we know that we will benefit from the pool of well-trained, experienced officers who've grown up in our own organisation. Again, the previous presenters talked about the challenge. And I've covered myself some of the initiatives that we are doing at Fleet Management to overcome those challenges. However, we talk anecdotally about the shortage of seafarers, but as you can see here from this data taken from DG Shipping, our crew pool is extremely fragile to global events, geopolitical risk, as well as all the push factors that was covered in the previous presentations. You can see on this screen 2020, 21, 22, the COVID years, a significant reduction in applications and certificates of competency approvals through the Indian seafarer pool. These are DG figures, not fleet figures. We've heard this morning about people leaving the sea for all sorts of other reasons. The Great Resignation. People wanting to move ashore, explore new careers. Seafaring, not what it used to be, you'll hear quite often. So as an industry, and in conclusion, we need to collectively work endlessly on retention strategies, and we're going to cover that in the panel discussion shortly. We need to ensure our colleagues are well planned, paid on time, and cared for. They need to trust us. And we need to explore and take advantage of every opportunity to make our industry a promising and inclusive future for everyone. Thank you very much.